All right, so welcome everybody. Episode 13. Wow, things are getting crazy. Um, Welcome, Laura. Thanks for the questions. Um, we are 9 people left in the game at the start of this episode, and hey, Nikki, welcome, bud. 9 people left at the start of the episode. 29 days in, so we are getting the next part of the game is going to be swift because they've got to get rid of. I don't know if we're going to go to a final 2 or a final 3, but if we go, we still got to get rid of 6 people. We only have 9 days left, essentially 29, so 30. So we have basically 10 days left of the game, and we have to get rid of 6 people. We've got to have a lot of game to be played. So the next couple of episodes are going to be fireballs, as my good friend Vanna used to say. So 9 people at the start. Obviously, Dante voted out the previous episode. And the episode starts off with a lot of the backlash from Jacques and Quibus being left out again. It's now the third time that Quibus has gone to tribal council and he's been left out of the vote. It actually reminded me a lot of when in our season when Tony was taken along and we told her we were doing one thing and we did completely something different. And every time she decided to join us again, and the same thing happened. And I was like, but at what point are you going to take ownership of that and be like, I've been played twice, 3 times. Like, you have got to make a decision. So Kubis for me was a bit, I mean, he still thinks he was a part of the game. He still thinks that he has any sway in the Spitz Shakers 7. So I find it very interesting for somebody who knows, from what we've heard on the island, from somebody who knows the game. Missy Casey, welcome. He clearly he's far too comfortable in his alliance that really has not taken him into the confidence of the votes. And to be honest with you, anybody who's not a former Solar member, I don't know why they think they are near the top of that alliance. It's a big alliance, and the problem with me is, and it's hard because the whole thing about Survivor is timing. But people like Letitia and Maba, these loose change players, are really are going to be used soon. And if they don't realize that they are running out of time to make the big moves, then there's going to be problems. And then those final Solar members will sit at the end. And they'll sit at the end next to each other because that's the only way that any of them won't be facing a bitter jury. For Rob to sit at the end next to Nicole, Rob wins. If Steffi sits at the end with Nicole, she could win. But if it's a final 3 and the 3 of them sit at the end, they've all done the things that needed to be done to get them there. And it's going to be a tough decision for the jury to make if it's a 3 of them. So it's really, really getting interesting. Also, what happens if Letitia sits at the end? Is the jury going to vote for her? If Jacques makes it all the way, the jury seem to be responding to him a lot. There is a lot of comments here. I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you have any questions, you can post them. There already have been some questions that have come in. So let's go right after they get back from the island. It's Steffi starts losing her mind again about integrity, and she wants to cut the people who are playing to the jury. Do you know what game this is? Those people decide who wins $1 million. You have to start playing to them. And Steffi points out that Quibus and Jacques are these people who are playing to the jury. Well, because they understand the game. And if you don't start playing to the jury, you're going to have a problem if you sit at the end. The problem is, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later. I just did a 2-hour podcast, by the way, yesterday with, if you're a massive Survivor fan, then you really should be listening to Rob Has a Podcast. Go to that site. Rob Has a Podcast. They do a wrap up every week of the episode. And for 50-minute episode, we did 2-hour podcast talking about the moves, what could have happened, because there was supposed to be a vote that was going to go a certain way, and when they got to the end, that's not how the vote played out. And I did the podcast with Shannon Gates from Rob Has a Podcast, and Mike Bloom, an American, an Australian, and a South African. It's a great advertisement for technology, and we spoke for 2 hours about the episode. So if you have any you want to find out what was said there after this, you can go and log on. I'll put it in my bio actually on Instagram, but if you want to just go check out Twitter. I didn't do the so Survivor fan 67 says Rob Sesternino. No, it's not Rob Sesternino, it is Shannon Gates, but it's Rob Has a Podcast, it's his website. So Rob Sesternino was on, I think, season 3, and he started a podcast analyzing a whole bunch of reality shows, and Survivor South Africa is one of them. So if you're a big fan and you've got 2 hours, I always listen to it while I'm driving, and it's really interesting. The passion that these people have for Survivor and the understanding of the game is incredible. So do yourself a favor. So I've got Survivor fresh in my brain, and it's fascinating to me to watch the jury. The jury for me is a very important part of this game, and somehow how I lost the game. I didn't play, I was playing to the jury in Tribal Council, and Tribal Council is one of my strongest places to be, but at the end I stopped playing to the jury, and it cost me R1 million. So yeah, it's people who think that the people on the jury are out of the game are very wrong, and the jury members who sit there bitter that they're not in the game are also wrong, because you got voted out, and that happened due to luck. It happened due to decisions that you made, lack of social awareness, lack of social game, a whole bunch of things. But unfortunately, your time in the game, you've now moved to the jury. It's changed. You're part of the game, but you're not in it. And the problem is when they get very vocal, it sort of affects the players in the game. So yeah, I have my own thoughts and feelings around that. Guys, there's lots of stuff coming through. So I'm going to get to some of it before we move on. Okay, that's just everybody joining. No, Nikki, you can't be a part of the video. Best moment, Jock buttoning up his shirt at Tribal Council. We will definitely get to Tribal Council. I hope Mark pulls it all together in the coming episodes, because the GOATs, loose change players, had opportunities to make moves, but Tribal Council votes are all over. It's frustrating. Marius, I agree with you. Mike is running out of time. He did sort of allude to his game plan in this episode, where he spoke about having to take out the big players. The problem is that if Rob keeps winning, he's going to run out of time. And Steffi is a very, very strong challenge contender. So he is running drastically out of time. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next week. Because from the throw forward to the episode, Jacques looks like he is persona non grata. Steffi's coming for him. Knives, guns, everything's loaded, everything's ready, everything's sharpened, and it's so fascinating how somebody reacts that way when their name gets written down. It's part of the game, and if you didn't see it coming, you are the moment you don't think you're in trouble in Survivor, you're in trouble. And I think Quibus also showed us that, and CP as well. So there you go. Fadil says Steffi and Nicole wins. You reckon? I don't know. They react really badly to Nicole. I think that Steffi has the argument that she's won a lot. I don't know. That's a really tough one. If it's a final 3 and they take somebody like Letitia, who wins? Steffi, Nicole, or Letitia? I think Letitia. And that'll be a bitter jury. Interesting. Did you watch Australian Survivor in Samoa, where the final challenge was at the Blow Rocks, where they had to endure and stand on poles? If you did, do you think ours will have the same challenge? I did watch that one, but we've never had... Oh, we did have a long endurance immunity challenge where they had to sit in a box, like a cage, all crouched up, and whoever could stand there for the longest. That was our previous, not 6-5. Anything is possible. Honestly, the way these people are doing challenges is incredible. So did you watch the challenge? And I did watch that challenge. Yeah. If Rob loses immunity, he might get voted out. That is something I hope I see. Steffi came across as a big bully in the next week's preview. Yeah, she's got problems. Bold statement given the reactions this week and next week. Steffi has become the perfect goat to take to the end. Yeah, actually, you're right. And the problem is that Steffi doesn't see that. She doesn't see that she may be, if you don't know what a goat means, it's somebody you take to the slaughter. But then again, I took a goat to the slaughter and look what happened. Steffi isn't mad because they wrote her name. It seems the promo Jacques seemed to have made it a nasty comment about women. Listen, Jacques sometimes has some interesting things that he said. One of the things that came up in the podcast was Jacques' comments about what did he call them, weak players or something like that, and he was referring to Maba and Letitia. And Maba's been very quiet the whole season, and I was impressed with her this episode because not only did she stand up for herself in tribal council, but she also went up against Rob and didn't give up. And Nico had a bit of some condescending comments about, that, if you had known you were going to go up against Rob, would you have even tried? Like, that's a little condescending. And she was still like, yep, I would have gone. We're going to chat about the breakdown of that reward challenge and what everybody thinks about the options. And I want to talk a little bit about the impact of those loved ones' letters on your game. It's quite interesting how something so simple can have a huge effect on the game. So I'll get there. But let's start off right. So one of the things that I find interesting, and it comes up every single season, is this argument that, and Jacques said it right after Tribal Council, and they were sitting around, it was the next day, he was talking about the fact that I have the idol just because I want it so that nobody else can have it. And it's so interesting, that comes up time and time again. Vander did it in our season as well. He's got 2 idols. I just have them so that I know where they are, and nobody else has them. It's like, really, that's the dumbest thing. If that's the case, then give it to me. I'll keep it, and then we know where it is. So that argument for me is so interesting, and it comes up time and time again. Let's have a talk about the reward. Look, that reward, let me tell you, screws you up. As soon as you have a little hint of family, it doesn't matter if it's the letters or the visits, it becomes such a huge mental block. I spoke about this in the podcast as well, that for me, my loved ones thing was a separate, let me try and explain to you how I went into this game. I didn't even pack for the jury. The moment I knew that I was cast, my mindset was that I would sit at the end. That never changed. Like Jacques talks about, I just want to make the loved ones challenge. I just want to, Kubis was saying that he was happy to make the jury, that he's really stoked to be on the jury. Mike talks about making the family visit and top 5. These people are talking like they're not going to make it to the end. That was never an option for me. Once I knew that I was in the game, I was, in my brain, I was going to sit at the end. Nobody else believed me. Nobody thought it was possible, but I knew it was possible, and that's the only way I played the game. So it's interesting for me how my shortcomings in the game happened really late. So what happens, not shortcomings, but like mental breakdown. About day 3, you see parents, and you see people who own business, and you see wives and husbands, and maybe the breadwinners in the family. Their downfall happens very quickly. Day 3, 4, 5, they're like, what the hell am I doing here? I've made a huge mistake. With me, I was prepared to be there, had no responsibilities at home. My work had said, go off and do what you need to do. The only thing that I have that's responsible to me is my cat, and she's sleeping there. And she went to my mom for a month and a half, or 2 months. So for me, it wasn't this huge, burden to be living out one of my dreams. But for somebody, for example, like Steffi or like Nicole, who's a mom, those kind of people have a real big challenge because they have to make sure that their mind is still in the game, but they are trying to, forget that they have a life at home. And my downward spiral happened 5 days from the end, and it was around the loved ones challenge. So for us, those letters came up in a challenge, and obviously I didn't win that. And it was the challenge with the words that we had to place with the paddles. A win tastes good, and I will never forget that phrase, where they all want hot dogs and their letters. And they come back to the beach with their letters, and they sit and read them, and they're out of the game when they're reading those letters. They are removed from the game, and that's a really nice moment, but it's also pretty dangerous, because if your head is not in the game and you're not present and you're not watching how people are responding to things, and you're not watching about who's talking to who, and you are not watching about who you are talking to, it might be innocent, it might be just a conversation, but it's what perceptions are all about. And you saw somebody like Annalise. I have the utmost respect for Annalise, and I thought that she played an exceptional game. For one of the reasons is how she managed her missing home. She had decided that she was going to put everybody in a box. So her 2 children and her husband and her business and everything that was at home was living in a box in her mind. And every time she started to have a bit of a wobbly, she would say to me, Jeanne, the lid of the box is creeping open. And I'd be like, you know what, Annalise, don't worry. Your kids are fine. They're chowing pizza at home with Paul. Everything's cool. Don't worry about it. Close the lid of the box. And the fact that the letters are just there where Nico is, and that's your loved one who's written a letter, and you know it's going to be emotional, and you know you're going to be overwhelmed, that's hectic. For me, I knew exactly what was going to be in my letter. It was going to be like, your cat's fine, your mom and dad are cool. It was from my flatmate who's my best friend. It wasn't my girlfriend or my husband or my wife or my granny who's dying. It was none of those. It was just a really, really good friend of mine. And we are not an overly emotional family. So for me, those loved ones' letters didn't put me over the edge. It did come when the loved one's visit happened, and not because I couldn't see my best friend. The cruelty of the game was shown to me in that day when the loved ones got to sit over there and enjoy their food. We could smell the food. We could hear them laughing. That to me was cruel. And that was the first time I had a sort of a downward spiral, but it happened really late in the game. For a lot of people, that happens really early. So it's a fascinating thing, those loved ones' letters. And it seems like such a small thing for you sitting at home on a Thursday night watching Survivor. It's a little piece of paper with a letter. But it has the power to elevate you in the game, like push your mind, like you are going to do this now. Your family believes in you. Everybody's here for you. We are supporting you. Somebody's taking care of your family, your business, whatever at home. You're going to do this. Or it has the opposite effect where it takes you out of the game for too long and you start to worry and think and live a little bit at home when you should be in the game. So it's a very tough thing to go through. But if you've made it this far with the loved ones' letters, you know that the loved ones' challenge is coming soon. Jacques harping on about the fact that it's the next episode or the following one is nonsense. I'll tell you why. We are in South Africa. We don't live in America. We don't have dollars. In South Africa, we deal with our currency called the rand. The rand is super weak. They are in Samoa, which is literally on the opposite end of the planet. For each individual person to get to the island, it took 4 flights. 4. And it cost around 40,000 rand. I know this because I'm part of the press contingent who sometimes get invited to go to the island. And when we were in the Philippines, we had about 7-10 people who went to the island to visit. The press people, the magazines, some of the newspapers, they come to the island to see exactly what it's all about. They sent 2 people this year because it was so expensive. The loved ones challenge, I swear to you, is not going to happen before Final 5 because they're not going to fly 9 people's loved ones out to the loved ones challenge. So Jacques is basing his decisions and his understanding of the game based on the American season. They're working in dollars. They own the world. So whatever. He is delusional. And I don't know whether he believes that the loved ones challenge is coming or if he's just telling them for sure that he's there for 2 days and to like play them or something. So it's interesting for me. That whole idea that Jacques is there for another 2 days, he's there guaranteed another day if he plays his idol, but it's a very, very tricky situation. He has got a massive uphill battle to get to even make the loved ones challenge, let alone to make it to the final 2 or 3. Anyway, so we get to the challenge, the reward challenge. And for me, this was a really interesting one. I feel like they could have done a better way of choosing which challenge or which prize, which option you were going to go for. Because once, you saw somebody raise your hand, and if you were a bit slower, you could have decided not to go for a certain thing based on who was going to go for the letters or the food or it's so I found that a little bit strange, and I was quite interested to see how many people went for the advantage in the game, because it was only 2 people. And when you don't go for the advantage, it almost sends a message that you think you're comfortable. The problem is that you're not only are you giving up the advantage, but you're giving it up for a loved one's letter, and it's a very difficult decision to make, because that loved one's letter, as I've just mentioned why, is so completely bananas in the setting of the game. For me, it would have been an easy decision, because as I said, I literally could verbatim tell you what would have been in the loved one's letter. So I would have gone for the advantage, even though I knew I was terrible at all the challenges. There was something inside of me that meant that I could not give 100%. So even when we had the challenge where we were holding onto the rope and it was a body weight thing, guys, it was a body weight thing. I knew I was going to be screwed in that one. Vanna said to me next to me, he was like, Jeanne, this is not your challenge. You should take the chocolate when Nico offered it. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to take the chocolate and not try and win this thing. Like in my brain, I was like completely convinced that I could have any shot. But I just could not give up in things. It was just not in my like DNA makeup. So to not go for that advantage, I would have given up the food, I would have given up the loved ones, I would have gone for the advantage. And my hat really tips to Maba for going for it and really giving it all. Unfortunately, Rob wins, and then he wins all of the prizes anyway when he gets to the Island of Secrets. So hectic challenge. And then we've got Nicole and Dural both pick the food. And you know what? Dural he's not the smartest of players. He is somebody that I know, actually met him recently and said that he's a bit of I think she used the word ditz. He seems a little bit like airheady, but he seems like the nicest guy, actually, between him and Mike. I think like really genuine guys. And Dural doesn't get taken very seriously in the game, but he actually has quite a bit of power now. So Dural goes up against Nicole for the food, and I was surprised that Nicole went for the food and not the loved one's letter. But again, maybe she had a feeling that a lot more people would have gone for the loved one's letter. So he is there, and I think once you're in the challenge, you realize how tough it is. And it was one where you have like a bracket, and you have to hold it apart, and it's heavy, and after a couple of minutes, that pole's going to slip right out. So Dural says, no, I'm going to give this up for you, Nicole. And I think it's interesting. I don't know whether he knew that he was going to beat her, or if he just didn't want to have to go that far, or if he was just carrying favor. But let's remember that Dural's eaten a lot at rewards. He gets taken on a lot of stuff. So, we know that he loves food, but he eventually gives it up for Nicole. And that move alone are the little things in Survivor that if somebody lands up on the jury, that's a moment that could be remembered. And that's essentially playing to the jury. If Nicole lands up on the jury and she has to pick between Dural and Letitia, she's probably going to lean towards Dural just by that little moment of humanity where he gave her the food. Whether he knew that he was going to be able to beat her or not, I don't know. Then we've got the letters, right? So in that competition, we've got Jacques, Letitia, Quibus. They fell out quite quickly. It was game on for Steffi and Mike. And again, Steffi is a challenge beast. She is a physical player who I think is one of the strongest in the game at the moment. Even, I would say, probably equal to Rob. Physical. She doesn't seem to do very well at the other parts of the I'm not sure about puzzles and that sort of thing, so I'm purely saying that physical. So if you're in a challenge and you've got Steffi there with you and you, Mike, and you haven't done really that well, again, you're going to weigh up immediately in your brain how long I can last. I'm not going to last very long in this challenge. And then you sort of decide, am I going to give up and give the reward to somebody else? And I think that Mike's decision to do that was really smart. I think he realized very soon that he wasn't going to beat Steffi. And then he made a show of giving her the letters. Again, it's another little moment. And then when they get back to the beach, Mike has a really, really ugly cry on the beach. Again, those loved ones' letters, the fact that they're over there, that is love from home. And you just want to hear, it doesn't even seem that long, guys. Almost 30 days on the beach, on by yourself, isolated with a bunch of random strangers who essentially don't want you there. That little moment of hearing about what's happening at home it feels like everything in the moment. And it seems so silly sitting at home and you're like, well, what's the big deal? I can't even explain it properly to you, but it's massive. Mike comes home and comes back to the beach and realizes that he's done this thing. And he has one of the most incredible moments where he talks about how mean the game is and how sometimes you have to do really bad things in a game of Survivor. And if there's a moment where you can be kind and generous and real to somebody, you should take it. And I really, really think that moment there was one of the reasons why Mike has been my favorite from the get-go. And let's remember, guys, he's one of the youngest players on the beach. He has so much emotional intelligence that I really, really admire him. Guys, you need to leave Steffi alone because she's not probably supposed to be on here, so she can't engage. So just leave her alone, okay? Let her sit there and watch. Yeah, so that moment for me was a real gem of a moment, and a hat tip for Mike. And the fact that Steffi got her letters will be one of those things that will forever stick with her. She will keep them. I've got mine somewhere up here. And mine was half a page. It wasn't even remotely emotional. Steffi's was like a couple pages from her husband and seemed incredible. So it was a nice moment. I really, really enjoyed that. And the real side of Mike's almost had to hold back and be. You could see it's not who he is, some of the things he has to do in the game, and he's doing them anyway. So I really, really admire Mike, and I think he's playing a really good game. He needs to get his timing right, because if he can win the game. But at the moment, it's going to be tough, because he's got to make big moves, and he's running out of time, and he's running out of people to vote with. So, Mike, please. So the final one was the advantage. And that was from the start, you thought Rob probably had it down. I thought Maba gave a huge effort in trying to beat Rob, and ultimately Rob wins. And then not only does he win that advantage, but he goes to Islands of Secret. And again, I was really concerned that the Islands of Secrets was going to be this gimmicky thing, and there were going to be so many idols in play, and it was going to mess around with what makes South African Survivor so great, and that is storytelling. It's the interactions on the beach. It's the dynamics between the people that they've cast, and they've cast these people for specific reasons, and that's what makes South African Survivor great. It's not about how many idols are in play and who's backstabbing and who's got twists and turns and advantages and steals and all these sort of things. South African Survivor is about storytelling at its core, and that's what I love about it. So when somebody gets sent to the Islands of Secret, it hasn't always been the same. It's like, oh, a rock draw. It's been you get to choose who goes. Between the tribe who wins, you get to choose who goes. So if you come last, you got to go. Those sort of things. And I really enjoyed this part of Islands of Secrets, where it's never the same. And again, when you get to the Islands of Secrets, it's also never the same. Sometimes it's a superfluous little thing. Sometimes you're sitting out of tribal council. That means you're not going home, and it also means you're not there for tribal council. That has never happened in Survivor. That was a new twist in Survivor, and it happened on Survivor South Africa. So to the producers of the show, these guys are incredible. They are massive fans, not just Henry and LaRue, the people who at the top of the production, but also the camera people. These people consume Survivor and they love it. They sit and they watch this recap and they listen to the podcast. These people are massive fans, and I love watching this show because I know it's produced by huge fans. It's not about money. It's not about any of the other things. It's about brilliant storytelling, and it's about Survivor at its core. It's about people and that social aspect of Survivor. So honestly, it's incredible. I did notice that they changed the show reel again at the start of the show. That's Fadil made that point. I love it. They're fresh. And it looks beautiful, and they're just immaculate storytellers. South Africans are great storytellers. That's what I believe. And these people are doing an incredible job. So amazing. Rob's winning, goes to the island. He gets to practice the challenge. We've seen that before. And I think it did pay off. But he still had to get to the end of that challenge. It was a complicated one. There was balancing with the arched beam where you had to get the ball on there. And I think once you figured that out, because there is clearly a strategy to that, because Quibus was rocking that with one hand, the champion that he is. Once you figured that out, you had to get through the balancing beam. Shame, like people like Letitia, I don't even think it made it out the starting blocks. It seemed like a really hectic one if you could not get that part right. We had the same thing as in terms of having to get it right at the start with this circle. In fact, I used it in my throw forward on Instagram, the one with the ball and the ring that you had to keep it in. And to get that thing going, they gave us like a couple of tries just to try and get it right. Half of us couldn't even get it right just to get to try. So now you've got to get it right. Then they start the challenge and you're like, oh God, I hope this works. So once they've figured out how to balance that ball on that arch, they had a lot better chance. And then that interesting sort of maze game ball thing that they had with the Mahindra steering wheel was quite unique and looked quite challenging. And yeah, Rob, Steffi and Quibus were all there in the end, and Rob obviously had his learning curve was a lot shorter, so he obviously had a bit of an advantage. But I think that Jacques gave him a run for his money. Quibus gave him a run for his money. Steffi at the end there was trying as well. So yeah, I thought the reward challenge was interesting. And then Mahindra gives a car. Oh no, for a month. They've been on the island for 29 days, and that is how long they would have a car. I mean, I'm massive fans of the sponsors, BioStrath, but I know they've given a car to the winner, like outright. Not the winner, sorry, the fan favorite. And if you want to vote, you need to go do that. But surely they could have given it for a year. A rental car for a month, essentially. I don't know. Also, there's this thing where when you win a car on any of the survivors, you never win Survivor. Did you know that? They call it the car curse. So I wonder if it works with a rental though. Interesting thoughts there. So let's go back. That was immunity, or was it? No, that was the immunity challenge. I beg your pardon. Just skipped over all of that. So Rob wins immunity again. Another visual of the fact that he's this massive, massive target, and nobody's even mentioning his name except Mike. No, Doral. No, Dante. And he's gone. Who else is mentioning his name? I think Mike mentions it for the first time now. Nobody is talking about Rob. What is going on? For the first time, people are now talking about Steffi. I've been saying Steffi and Rob, the hugest targets of the game, and nobody's been mentioning their name at all. Anyway, so now we have this situation. And there's a lot of fan fiction, they call it, in the Survivor community, where they think certain things have happened, or there's an understory or a conspiracy theory that's happening. And there is a interesting situation happening now talking about the vote, because there was no indication that there was going to be the way that the votes unraveled. It was going to be a 4-3 split, and that's what was going to happen, and then that didn't happen or something. It's very complicated on a high level. Yeah, let me just see if I can get to Shannon Gates explained it quite interestingly for the it's very complicated anyway, but let me just get to some of these before we lose all of the sorry, there's a lot of chat on here today, guys. Mike is also here, but guys, again, let's leave them alone. If they join, they're not allowed to talk to the people. I always say that I would die for a loved one's letter, but would 100% go for advantage and just hold it out until loved ones visit. Is it worth $1 million? It's hard, guys. It's very difficult to make those decisions. You're not given a lot of time either. Loved ones is most likely at 7 or 8 because LaRue is a massive fan and the season is a lot like the US ones. I guarantee you, not before 5. He's a massive fan. He also did ours. We did ours at 5. And it didn't take 4 flights to get to the Philippines. So trust me when I say it's not happening before 5. The advantage was so important if only they knew. Yeah, and that advantage, not only was it the advantage, it was also all the other things. You got your letters and you got the food. So amazing. Challenge, did you name... The challenge, did you... You did the name is Splashback. Okay. Mike made a good move giving the challenge to Steffi. I agree. It's massive. Mike is a sweetheart. Hi, Steffi. Hi, Steffi. Mike passing the letter to Steffi also intensifies the target on Steffi. She's strong and winning. Vote her out. Steffi still has the... Ooh, there's lots of chatter about the Idol and Steffi and Jacques and stuff. We're going to get there. Survivor SA, so great, the intro. Quibus was very close to winning that one. That sucked, 30-day car rental. 1 year would have been great. Car curse. Nobody's talking about Rob. That's a huge flaw. Rob has everyone wrapped around his little finger. Rob's holding the game, and his Idol makes me think he's going to at least 5-6. Yeah. The fact that they've left it so late... You see, the problem is if they don't get him out in the next 2 episodes, he could go on a immunity win, a run, and he could just dominate in the challenges. And then you're going to be stuck with not getting rid of him. So we kind of had that as well with Werner, where we knew we had to do something about it, but we had to wait for him to lose. And we had to... wait for him, because your idols, the idols that we had in our game were only good until Final 5. You couldn't play them after Final 5. So we knew that we had to get it right after that or right before then, and it had to be this huge thing. So it's a tough game that they're playing, but because he's so strong at challenges, and this is in Jacques' best interest as well, if he can just play up to every other person on that island, that if they don't take him out now, he's can go on an immunity run, and nobody can beat Rob right now sitting in the jury. I don't think. Maybe Mike. The jury don't seem to like him, but they have to respect his gameplay. Well, you hope. If it's a bitter jury, I don't know if that's gonna work out. But I find it hard, besides Mike and Rob, to pick anybody who would give them a run for their money. in the final 2 or 3. Interesting. Yeah, but they are running out of time. And if they don't do it soon, they're going to have a huge problem. Same thing with Steffi. Steffi is despised, it seems, by everybody on the jury. And she doesn't seem to realize that that's a problem. But she's also somebody who could go on an immunity run. She's super strong. She's really good at challenges. The whole reason Steffi's on Survivor was because of the challenges. She's watched this game at home and said, I can win those challenges. The problem is, and if you don't know this, here it is in green and all the other colors on your screen, full HD color. Survivor is not about the challenges. Survivor is not about how strong you are. Survivor is a mental and social game. Anybody can play it. You have it from me. There you go. Take that home, put it in your post box, and I don't know what you can do with it in your post box. Who has a post box anyway? So this actually came up. Mario says when Rob gets voted out, the hashtag is rental car curse. That's a good one. Yeah, Rob has a Sangoma at home looking after him. He really is. No, he's just that charming, I think. I agree. Morris rental car curse. Is Rob playing better than Vanna? They asked me this in the 2-hour podcast on Rob Has a Podcast yesterday. And I think that Rob's social game might be better than Vanna. But Vanna knew Survivor better than a lot of people. That guy is not a fan of the game. He is a student of the game, much like Jacques. They know the undercurrents. They know the 3-2-1s and all these other strategies and stuff. I don't know that stuff. I just watch it because I'm entertained and I like the people part of it. And the challenges are fun to watch. I don't know those strategy things. I don't follow, like when Shannon Gates was talking about this conspiracy theory of how the vote changed by what the people would, I was lost, guys. I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, oh, these people went to vote and they did it. And then, no, apparently there's so much happening in the game. I think Rob has a hold on the social side of it. And Vanna had that too, but there were a lot of people who disliked Vanna. It seems that everybody kind of likes Rob, but nobody, maybe Jacques, understands the game better than Vanna. Vanna survived a lot longer in the game than he thought he would, and that was about his social gameplay. But he is too big of a threat because he couldn't hide the fact that he knew the game. He was so enamored by every little twist and turn, and every time we went to a challenge, we were like, whoa, like kids in candy stores. So he couldn't hide the fact that this passion of his was Survivor, and that he knew every little nook and cranny, and the fact that he was up every morning before everybody searching for idols, even though we didn't know if there were any in the game. There are a lot of similarities between Rob and Vanna, but I think the one is more strategic and the one is more social, and both of them are really, really good currency in Survivor. So Rob is playing an incredible game. I didn't like him at first. He and a lot of the solo members, I mentioned this before, play with a lot of entitlement. In the podcast yesterday with Mike Bloom and I share the same thoughts, that when you start talking about people who deserve to win, people who deserve to go on challenges, people who don't deserve to be in the game or who are not playing, that frustrates me immensely, because the game is made up of 3 pillars: outwit, outlast, and outplay. The most important one of those, can we guess, is outlast. You cannot outplay or outwit if you are sitting on the jury. You cannot outplay or outwit if you go home before merge. That is the end of the story. And how you get there my interpretation of a game, a good social game, a good Survivor game might be completely different to Letitia. We can take nothing away from the fact that Letitia is still there. She is playing a good Survivor game. Maba is playing a good Survivor game. You can judge it, you can call it everything else, but essentially they are still there. The people on the jury are these cool, dynamic players who were calling out Rob, and they were trying to make big, bold moves. They were great players, but they're on the jury. They are out of the game. They make a massive impact on the game. They make the biggest decision in the game. But essentially, they are no longer outwitting or outplaying because they didn't outlast. That is how I view Survivor. There are no bad players in Survivor. There are crappy characters. There are people who are a bit silly, but everybody deserves to be there. The fact that Steffi and a lot of the Solar members were coming for Dante because it was unfair that he kept winning. It's not unfair. He just won. He was better on the day. That is not unfair. That is just, you've got to beat him or vote him out, which you did. So you outplayed him. That is how Survivor works. There is no, you are a better individual because you did this, that, and the next thing. If you're still in the game, you're still in the game, and you're equal to everybody else. That's how I view it. My opinion, drop me a message if you don't agree. We love you, Jeanne. Love interacting on your live. Always my favorite Sunday time. Yeah, thanks for coming. Dante may have been an emotional wreck, but they should have listened to him to vote Rob out. Yeah, he seemed to be the only one who wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid, the Rob-Aid, if you will. And the rest of them are now going to have to make some really hectic decisions. The problem is that Jacques is going to have to be at the center of those decisions. And nobody seems to want to touch him with a barge pole because he's got such a huge target on his back. Jacques is guaranteed at least one more day in the game if he plays this idol for himself. The fact that he didn't play his idol for himself is kind of stupid in this vote. It took balls of steel. And if I had to give a player of the episode, I would have given it to Jacques purely because of the amount of balls it would have taken. Because remember, Jacques is sitting with a monkey on his shoulder when he misplayed the idol for himself as opposed to his number one ally, Ting Ting, and she went home. That was a huge mess up in the game. And that will still be on his shoulder. That will still be in the back of his mind. You screwed it up once, you screwed it up once, you screwed it up once. Don't screw it up, don't play it. And all of the conversation at, even before they get to tribal council, people are telling him outright, you have to play your idol tonight. Okay, king of the world, I must do what you say. A lot of people are coming for him. He knows that. He also has to sit through a tribal council where everybody's basically saying that, dude, you're out if you don't play your idol. Trust, 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 blah, blah, blah. It's fascinating. And then he still doesn't play it. And remember, I said that there's this idea that who was going to vote for Jacques, who was going to vote for Quibus. And then it turned out that those people didn't actually do that. And so Jacques essentially was supposed to go home. They were going to put more votes on Jacques' name. And they switched it up at some point. Now, Shannon Gates from Rob Has a Podcast thinks that because they knew that people were going to turn on Steffi, somehow that must have got out. And so they changed the vote. They thought that Jacques was going to play the idol for Quibus. And then Jacques would go home anyway. Now, somehow they didn't follow through. Somehow the word got out. And some of the people who they thought might flip, so Mabo is one of them, Letitia is one of them, they thought that they might flip. They obviously went back to the original plan to split votes. And then essentially Jacques had, by the skin of his chinny chin chin, buttoned up his shirt. And that's why I'm wearing a shirt today, by the way, guys. What a ballsy move. I have a question for you. Do you think that he went into tribal council knowing that he wasn't going to play his idol? And also, do you think he knew he was going to button up his shirt? Because if he did, he's a bloody genius. I love that whole thing. Taryn asks, what do you think about Steffi only focusing on Jacques' idol when the final three amigos each has an idol and she doesn't? It is completely two-faced. It is the pot calling the kettle black. And again, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about underdogs and people in, the winners in the world. And I mentioned this in the podcast as well. If you just joined, I did a podcast 2 hours on Saturday with the guys from Rob Has a Podcast. It's a lot more in depth than this will be. But I, in real life, have a huge problem with people who sometimes get stuff handed to them. There's a massive culture and desire for entitlement in the world today. So some people want to just be handed stuff because they look pretty, or they went to the right schools, or they have money, or they've come from a certain background, whatever it might be. But gone are the days where you have to work hard and everybody is equal. entitlement for me is one of the backbones of this former solo members. And Jacques is sort of, not Jacques, Rob has sort of moved away a little bit for me. He's playing a lot better now, and he's let go of that thing like we're so big and strong and fit that we're going to dominate the people, and we're just going to win everything and bulldoze over these skinny little guys. He sort of let that go a bit, but Steffi, for me, is very quick to call out people who are doing things in her mind that are wrong, but she's doing exactly the same thing. I will tell you, and this is going to sound interesting, that there's a lot of similarities with that between Steffi and Martinez in our season. Martinez lived his life and played the game of Survivor with a very black and white view of the world. It was either wrong or it was right. There was no in between. And Steffi has that as well, where she's like, you're lying, you're cheating, you're being dishonest, when she's doing those things herself. So by keeping, for example, Kobus out of the vote, you are lying. By keeping Jacques out of the CPay vote, you are lying. The fact that Jacques has an idol, he hasn't lied to anybody. Everybody knows he has the idol. But you're forcing him, you're intimidating him to play it as if he owes you something. Entitlement. And it really grates me up the wrong way. And people sitting on the jury seem to be affected the same way. In fact, when Nicole spoke in the episode, I think Jeffrey or somebody said it's nauseating. That's massive, guys. These people are not going to hand R1 million over to any of the former solo members easily. It all depends on who's sitting where. But yeah, unfortunately, Steffi has this view of the world in the game of Survivor. I don't know Steffi personally. I've chatted to her on Instagram a couple of times. Seems like the nicest human being on the planet. However, when you step into the game of Survivor, everything changes. You're there to play for R1 million. And so what happens is you excuse all social niceties. You exclude all social etiquette. The way that we would normally treat people. You wouldn't speak badly to somebody's face or shout at somebody in real life. You may do it behind their back, but they will never know. If I speak badly about Loudmouth here, unless I do it on Instagram, nobody's ever going to know about it. But on Survivor, what happens is we watch it on TV. And you see yourself doing reprehensible things. And it's a hard pill to swallow. This time that the people who have played this game is the hardest thing these people will go through, watching themselves on TV. And they've just done, some of them will go 39 days on an island, which let me tell you is bloody difficult. Watching it on TV is even harder because you see yourself in a light that it's nauseating, to quote the jury. It's difficult to watch yourself put another human being down, to walk around with that entitlement, to undermine somebody, to shout at somebody, to lose your anger, lose your cool on TV in front of people. Then you go into a confessional and you just say whatever you want to say. You don't have a filter. And watching that on TV it's damaging. It is so damaging, guys. You have no idea. And so Steffi is probably going through one of the hardest times of her life right now. I also think she's probably going to be voted out in the next couple of episodes. Because at some point they're going to turn on her because she's too good at challenges. So the fact that you've gone through all of that, you're probably not sitting in the final 2 or 3. That must be excruciating to watch. I know that she's also injured her leg, which means that she can't do her normal sport right now in real life and be fit and be that Steffi that she's used to. So she must be going through hectic times. I'm not trying to attack people personally. I'm looking at the game and we're talking about the recap of the episode. So anybody who's watching this, Mike, Steffi, anybody, Jacques, who comes on to watch, I know you guys watch. And honestly, I have the utmost respect for you. And I'm directly speaking to the people who are playing this game. If you ever need to talk to somebody who knows exactly what you are going through, please drop me a message. Because I was talking to a friend today who asked me, do you still have PTSD about Survivor? And I said, I still have moments where the game creeps up in your real life and you see something, it triggers. And there are things that nobody in this stream of people who are validating me, tuning in to watch my Instagram recap live, nobody will ever understand what it's like. Even the people who are there on the production, and the camera people who are there every single day, nobody will know what it feels like to be in Survivor. And for me, the hardest part was 5 days till the end. And if you weren't there 5 days from the end, you have no idea what that was like. It was hectic. So all respect all my love and light to all the people who have played this game. Keep doing what you're doing. Try not to listen to the noise of the people like myself discussing the episode. We are just doing this as fans. But it is not a personal reflection. I don't know Steffi. I don't know Rob. I don't know Nicole. And they are not bad people. They might be playing a terrible Survivor game, but that's a game. And if we can leave it at that, guys, then we're all winning. Yeah, those idols, I sometimes forget that Rob and Nicole have idols, so that's also going to be a huge issue. So you not only have to get Rob out, you also have to get him out and blindside him so that he doesn't play an idol. It's going to be interesting, guys. The next few episodes are going to be interesting. I watched Quibus's jury entry video, loved how he called the jury the cool kids. Yeah, he seems very cool about being on the jury, and I think that if Mike can make it far, Mike has got a lot of allies on the jury. Jeffrey wants Mike to win. Cipay wants Jacques to win. Meryl will probably vote for... I don't know who Meryl would vote for. But Quibus says that Jacques is good, Mike is good. So it's going to be a really, really interesting jury. Those people have been playing hard and now are on the jury. Let me tell you, they're not going to stop playing. So talking about idols, noticed nobody was looking for an idol after merge and going to the new beach. Maybe there's still one hidden. Would be so funny if Jacques finds it. I do find it interesting. Let me tell you, probably that people are looking for the idol. For those of you that don't know, generally in Survivor, so when Meryl played an idol for herself, generally that comes back into the game. And they're generally about 4 or 5 in the game at any given time. And once one gets played, it often comes back into the game. Now, that doesn't mean that it hasn't come into the game and that people are not looking. They're just not leaving it out of the edit. Every single day, Vanna got up on our season to go and look for idols. They didn't show it because he doesn't find an idol. So unless somebody has got a clue or somebody finds an idol, they won't put that in the edit because it's a waste of 2 or 3 minutes where we could be having drama and conflict on the beach or at the games or at tribal council. So what do you want to see? Somebody aimlessly walking around a beach, or do you want to see drama and intrigue from the game? That's probably what's happening. I don't know whether it is in the game. We'll only ever know that after the game if we ask LaRue. I hope whenever's next Survivor that you'll keep doing these Sunday night recaps. I'll keep trying, Laura. He knew that it was going to do I laughed so hard, best ever. Laura says he knew that's what he was going to do. Talking about buttoning up a shirt and not playing his idol. Yeah, what a ballsy move. Missy Casey says Steffi has no right. Jacques can have an idol. It's part of the game. I 100% agreed. Taryn says Jacques planned to make people think he was going to play it. It was a major risk, but that button-up shirt was great. It was the biggest baller move I've ever seen in Survivor, actually. So he had been playing that, and the thing is, I think that people push too hard, saying that he has to play it, like, how dare you have an idol, you must play it. And I think that he was willing to go home for his standpoint and be like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I will play my idol when I'm good and damn ready. Guys, we're getting really long here, so let's try and wrap it up. People didn't like Graham Jenica, but that his gameplay. So I'm not counting out Nicole or Steffi. Yeah, listen, nobody thought that Tom could win, everybody. Okay, so let me just quickly get to these before we leave. Can we please vote Dante back? Survivor is boring. Dante was one of the biggest characters. Now that Quibus is also gone, yeah, there's not a lot of huge characters, but there's still very strong players in the game. So yeah, I mean, Dante was fun to watch, but he wasn't a great Survivor player, and he struggled with the social parts of the game. So he realized what had to be done, but he couldn't get anybody on his side. He couldn't convince anybody to vote with him, so that's a tough one. Thanks for the question. Do you think there's a way for Jacques to come back from this, and does the game try and help X advantages? I don't know what that last part means. Look, Jacques has got a massive uphill battle, but in his mind, for me, Jacques can't win Survivor because in his mind he's only playing until the Loved Ones Challenge. I know it sounds all like hey shoo wow, but if he's already put that up in his brain, he's already put that in the box, you can't win Survivor if you don't think you're playing that far. And I know that he might be saying that to like calm everybody's nerves. Hey guys, I'm not going to be a challenge at the end because I'm not trying to play to the end. I'm just trying to play till loved one challenge. But if you keep saying that, you're actually manifesting that. And the fact that he keeps talking about that, Jacques can't go past loved one's challenge. So I don't know how he comes back from this. How he manages to get Maba, Mike, Letitia. He's got a vote. And then there's Jacques and Steffi left. And Rob. That's 8. He has to get all of those people on board. And they've got to turn. And they've got to do it in a way that blindsides Rob or Nicole or Steffi. It's going to be a massive uphill battle because by the looks of things, the next episode, nobody wants to touch him. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays. The question is, where did the jury stay on the island? They don't stay on the island in our season, I don't know, where they could be staying in New Zealand for all we know, in Samoa. But what happens is the jury go to a resort or a hotel or something close by. By the sounds of things, nothing on Samoa is close at all. It's like an hour anywhere. So I would assume that they are in a hotel, in a resort somewhere close by. I love saying this, but I unfortunately was never on the jury, so I can't give you any backstory about being on the jury. But I think they let them chill on the beach, at the pool. They take them on day excursions, maybe. I don't really know, guys. But they get to interact and chill out, and there's no like restriction on who they can talk to or who they can't talk to, I don't think. But again, I was never there. Apologies, bye. Right. Where do you go and what happens when you are the final 2? After the game or during the game? You see everything that happens. It's an episode of the same amount of minutes and only 2 people. So there's a lot of episode where you are in it. But are you talking about after the game when it's finished? Look, Tribal Council for us was 3 hours long. That is a long time for people to be spewing hate and vitriol at you. It was one of the most uncomfortable, awkward moments in my whole existence, and I did not enjoy it. I don't enjoy confrontation, and so I had a huge issue with the Tribal Council, as we know. What happened after then, and that was like, I think it was 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere there. Myself and Tom stayed behind at Tribal Council, literally there, and all of the jury members walked off. We are not allowed to talk to them, and they got on a boat, they got in a bus, and they drove for 6 hours to the airport, and they were gone. Myself and Tom were put on a boat, and we went to the same Ponderosa area that the jury had been at, and we were there for that night and the next night, and then we left really early, like 3 o'clock in the morning after that. So we traveled together. So we went from that beach. They took us from the resort to Puerto Princesa in the Philippines, which was a 6-hour like van ride away, and then we got on a flight from there to somewhere else, and from somewhere else back to Manila. And then Tom was picked up because he was flying to PE, and he was picked up at a different time to me, and he went home, and I went a bit later back to Cape Town. So yeah, but then you're not allowed to talk to anybody. You have non-disclosure agreements. You're not supposed to engage. As I say, when people log on here that are in the game, they have very, very, very strict rules about who they can publicly talk to, who they can engage with. They're not allowed to talk to one another. Even posting on social comments and stuff, they're not allowed to do that. So we have to be very... we have to be very respectful of them in this time. It's really tough, guys, I promise you. Let's quickly get through these comments. Jesus, guys, you are on point today. The last question on the previous live was about Tani Letitia waiting for everyone to talk, and then she just goes to her people for the vote name. Look, Letitia is playing a smart game. Whether she can win because of the title of Coat Taylor, I'm not sure. But the fact that she is the oldest contender we had on Survivor this year, and she's still there, and she's still giving it horns, guys. Even in the challenge with the holding the reward challenge, she wasn't the first person out. I have so much love and respect for Tani Letitia. When I see her at the finale, I'm going to give her the massive hug that she deserves. And I think we should all be here and team Tani Letitia. And I just think it's a great story of the fact that anybody can play Survivor. Nobody, if you had looked at the cast, in fact, if we go back and you look at the cast and analyzing the people before the game starts, people always look at the pictures and their background and who's going to do really well. It's such a lot of wanky bullshit because Jacques, by the way, counted me out, thought I was going to be the first person voted out of my season. So it's all about looks and who does what and how. They thought that Annalise would do very well because she was a caterer and that she was going to cook for everybody. Guys, it's rice. Anybody can cook rice. Get out of town. So I always find those, obviously she did do very well, but not because of that. It's because she's a great human. So I find those things very irritating, actually, because you're basically judging people off of the book cover. And you know what they say about that. Anyway, does the game like secretly help by putting idols for Jacques? No. Sometimes it feels frustratingly like that. But it's a coincidence. You know, some of the advantages that you see on Islands of Secrets, you think like, oh, did they wait until that person was there before they played that? But according to the producers, they plan this out every single minute of the day, far before they even get to the island. So they know that what turn and twist is going to happen on what day, and where the idols are going to be, and how they're going to be hidden, and where the clues are going to be, and all these things way in advance. They don't even wait until casting happens. They don't have, I mean, I think they have favorites, but when we were in the press conference before the show, guys, I need to wrap this up. We've been going for a long time. Wow, guys, really? In the press conference, I asked them about if they have any favorites and do their favorites ever get very far. And the problem is that there's so many twists and turns and luck involved, as many people never want to hear. There is a lot of luck that is involved in Survivor. And so they can't tell. And also some people you think are going to be so strong going in. And then the word quit comes up. So there are rumors that Rose Lee quit the game. There are rumors that Nathan quit the game. There are rumors that Rocco asked to be voted out. So you look at the cast before and you don't know how they're going to handle it when they actually get there, because the reality of Survivor is unlike anything you've ever lived before. So it's completely coincidental, apparently, when they do the idols and stuff like that. So I don't think that they back any one player to win Survivor, because oftentimes they have a winner who they didn't really, it's not suited to the game, the narrative of Survivor for that person to win. They don't have any control over that. They also have 10 people in the jury or so who are going to make the decision for them. They can't predict what's going to happen in those moments. My big question, okay, so yeah, I've just addressed that. I don't think that they do save people. Loudmouth says, Jeanne and Tom road tripping. Now there's a reality show waiting to happen. Tom and Jeanne. Tom is a great human. Shame. We are very different people. We have very different views on the world, but he is, if I was in trouble in PE, he would be the first person I called. But at that point of the game, not only was I completely over Tom, which isn't difficult to be, I was over people. So for 39 days, I had at least 15 to 20 people around me every single day, camera people, minimum 5 cameras. Each camera has a sound technician. Each sound technician has an assistant. Each camera has an assistant. So that's 3 people per camera. 15 people plus producers there asking questions. I needed to be by myself, and Tom does not stop talking. He also doesn't sit still. So it was a lot when I needed to just not be around humans, and there's a lot going on. You want to be clean, you want to be in a hotel room, you want silence, you want to eat. It's a lot right after the game. And that adjustment from game to real life is also hectic, by the way. But that's for another podcast. Remind me to chat about that. Where will the finale be? Are we able to get tickets to? I assume it's going to be in Cape Town. It was last year. And the reason I say that is because Atlantic Studios is where they had it last year. And I assume they will have it there again. They recreate Tribal Council. And I don't think that you can buy tickets. It's kind of exclusive. And they invite people. So because I am a producer on radio, I get invited to a lot of the Mnet things. But I am assuming I was top 2. So I'm assuming they'll invite me there. They had a lot of the previous players there before, so that's what I'm assuming. But I will definitely be there, whether through Mnet's being invited or just because I was top 2. So yeah, and we'll do a recap after the the finale. Marius is calling Mike out. Don't call Mike out. He's allowed to stay. Nathan wasn't very strong. He seemed to be beyond his depth. Again, a lot of people who don't have, I don't want to be mean, but a lot of people who rate themselves look at the game and think, I can do that. We had a lot of people like that too. And you get into the game and there's nothing in life that can prepare you for Survivor. And you walk into the game and you're completely out of your depths. Doesn't matter who you are. You have no idea what you've just stepped into. It's a TV production, which not a lot of people are ever involved in, but it's also reality, and you're having to live in the worst conditions. You're hungry, you're obsessed, you're paranoid. There's a whole bunch of things. Plus, there's the physical element to it, but the physical element is this much, and the game is like this. So it's somebody like Nathan would have watched the game and says, I'm tough, I'm strong, I'm fit, I can do this, and then get into the game and realize that that has nothing to do with the game. So yeah, he was unfortunately out of his depth. Laura says, can I please be your +1 on the finale? I don't think I get a +1, but if I do, I have to take one of my besties and one of my favorite people, Stefan Lombard, who has been watching Survivor, even the previous episodes. Every Thursday we go and watch, and he's a huge thing on Twitter. If you don't know, you should go and follow him at Stefan Lombard. He is the spiciest bitch I have. He's kind of like Quibus, actually, who we love, but he's got one-liners for days, and he's the most incredible human. So he will more than likely be my +1 if he's not invited himself, because he's kind of a celebrity on mnet.co.za because of his spicy tweets. So we'll see. But hey, you know, poor Jeanne wants to go to sleep. Hey, listen, I have to be up at 4:20, so #breakfast radio. Okay, are we done? Marion, you missed it. It's done. But I'll post it to YouTube. I'll have to go and edit the 2 together, because who knew you could only do one for an hour? Thanks, Instagram. Before we go, where were you saddest? Who were you saddest to leave this season? To see leave this season? Sorry, clearly reading is fundamental. Who was I saddest to see leave this season? I was really sad to see Ting Ting leave. I wanted her to go far. I thought she had a lot of potential. And Rose Lee. Any strong female character that goes out the game, I'm like, oh. So I was sad to see Meryl leave. I was sad to see Dante go. If Dural goes, I will literally cry big tears, because he's such great TV. Yeah. Who went first? I can't even remember. Oh, Leanne. Shame. Yeah, I think Ting Ting and Rose Lee and Meryl. Anyway, good night. Thank you for all of these comments. You guys are on fire today. We'll do it again on Sunday next week. Enjoy the episode. Any questions, any comments? I probably left out the massive part of what I was supposed to speak about, but yeah, we covered a lot, and we'll chat again next week. Bye everybody. Thanks for all the comments, and thanks for staying with us. Bye.